guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is a case that, well, it's just horrific for starters. And I don't know, whenever, it kind of annoys me a little bit, whenever I search up the victim's name, it's all kind of about the murderer's name, and this is why I'm basing my video more from Colleen's side. It's of Colleen Slemmer, if I've already mentioned that, which I don't think I have. But from Colleen's side rather than her murderer's side, because I don't know, it's all about her, and it shouldn't be. Do you know what I mean? Obviously she has a big part in it, but still, it's my opinion anyway. But yeah, I'm going to look into the case of Colleen Slemmer. This case was suggested, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you have any more, please do let me know. Colleen Ann Slemmer was born on the 20th of September in 1975 in Bucks County in Pennsylvania, the US. She was born to parents Paul and May Martinez, and she was just such a lovely young woman. So originally she was living in like Florida area, but then she got accepted into a place called Job Corps, and this is when she traveled to Knoxville to go to classes there. So Job Corps is something like, I believe it's like sort of a centre to help people who are potentially like more struggling, and it allows them to learn these skills to enable them to get like a job. I might be completely wrong with that, but I think that's what it is. I'm sorry if I'm wrong with that. I do know that it no longer exists because, you know, it had a lot of problems surrounding it, and in that area they've just torn the thing down now. And I mean, this is one of those huge problems that happened in Job Corps. While she was there, she ended up meeting a girl called Krista Pike, who, let's say she just had a troubled background. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it. It's not a very nice background, but in the same sense, what she did to Colleen was not very nice either. And just because you come from a bad background, it doesn't mean that you can be a bad person. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. There's so many people out there who have had horrible backgrounds and are genuinely really lovely, nice people. It doesn't turn them into a monster. So she did have a troubled background. She ended up living with her grandma, and it was going really well with her grandma. I don't think she got on too well with her mum. Then her grandma sadly passed away, and then she ended up back in with her mum, and it just went kind of downhill there. And then she ended up going to Job Corps. She wanted she was 18, I believe. She wanted some sort of training to become this nurse technician, which is what her mother did. And there she also met her boyfriend, who was called Daryl Shipp. He was 17, and he was a self-proclaimed Satan worshipper. So you can tell this is going down a dark route from the start. And they would worship Satan together. And Krista Pike would start calling herself, well, they both sort of did a deep dive into it. And she started calling herself the little devil. I just don't know why, but yeah, that's what she did. So Colleen was there going to her classes, doing whatever she did, and then Krista kind of got like this jealousy of her, I guess. She thought that Colleen was after Daryl, and no matter what Colleen said, that how she didn't have any feelings for him whatsoever, yada yada yada, she didn't believe her. And Krista started exhibiting some pretty scary behaviour, which would scare Colleen, because she would come up to her dorm at night and things like that, and it was really, really frightening for her, which obviously it would be. It got to the point where Colleen really didn't even want to be there anymore, but obviously she went there for a reason, and she wanted to finish her classes, and so she stayed because of that. Then on the 12th of January in 1995, Krista actually asked Colleen if she wanted to go into the forest and smoke some of the green stuff together. And everyone, well, not everyone, but it was kind of thought to be like an olive branch to sort of ease their tensions together, and Colleen agreed. But that's not what her intention was at all, because she'd already been proclaiming before she even made this arrangement that she was gonna kill Colleen Slemmer. So like I said, Colleen said yes. Krista, Daryl, and another girl called Shadona Peterson, who was 18. So they all start heading down there. They all sort of sign out of Job Corps together. So 4 names sign out. And then many hours later, only 3 names signed back in. And Colleen Slemmer was the one that was missing. They went to kind of a closed off park area that was far away into sort of the wooded area. You know, it was isolated, it wasn't very populated. Obviously they chose that area for a reason, but Colleen just figured that they were gonna go out there to smoke, to have a smoke, because, you know, you're not supposed to smoke it. So the more isolated and sort of away the area was, the less likely they were going to get caught. And there was another reason behind it too, because basically they were that far away and that nobody would be able to hear Colleen scream. As they were started walking down, Colleen's wondering like when they're going to have the smoke, and then Krista turns round on her and starts demanding as to why she had feelings for Tadaro. But Colleen didn't have any feelings for Tadaro, so she was saying that she didn't have any, and this is when she began beating her. Colleen tried calming her down, trying to say, you know, listen, we can talk about this, but she continued to just beat on her. And I believe Tadaro sort of joined in as well, I think, and this is when she ended up pulling out a box cutter from her pocket. She also had a mini meat cleaver. She begins slashing at her and stabbing at her with these two weapons. All this time, Colleen was begging, you know, to let her go. She even said that she'd leave Job Corp, she'd leave the area, she'd go back home, she'd never speak a word of this, you know, please, please, just let her go. She begged for her life, but Krista didn't give a damn. She just carried on regardless. And then, in fact, she even told her to be quiet because it was harder to hurt somebody who was talking to you. So she wanted to shut up so that she could hurt her and make her feel less human, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, it's horrific. They basically tortured Colleen for like an hour. It was really bad. And she was alive for pretty much all of it. I believe at that point as well, Shadona was stood as like a lookout, so she wasn't actually involved in, well, just the horrific torture that was going on. She was around the area sort of being the lookout to make sure nobody came. At one point, Colleen even escaped. Well, I think a few points. I think she tried escaping a few points, but they just dragged her back. They just dragged her down and just carried on beating on her, assaulting her, slashing at her. They ended up carving a satanic symbol into her chest, which apparently they both did half each of. And then this is when Krista Pike picks up a concrete slab from like a pile of rubble that was off on the side, and she hit Colleen over the head with it. She smashed her multiple times in the head and apparently said that she wanted to see Colleen's brains flow, which is just freaking sick. After all that, after everything that she had gone through in all that time, she's beat the crap out of her and then she smashed her skull in. She ended up reaching down and taking a piece of her skull. So as you can imagine how smushed up she would have been at that point. She was still alive too. Krista Pike takes a piece of Colleen's skull, puts it in her pocket, and then slashes her throat with the box cutter, I believe. And Colleen's still trying to get up, and at that point they're asking, like, do you know who's doing this to you? Do you know? And she's just gurgling because she's just dying. And they just carried on watching until they basically knew that she was no longer alive. They went down to the closest gas station, they washed it up, they got rid of the murder weapon, and then they went back to Job Corps. And apparently Krista was in like the best of moods ever. She's jumping up and down, she's dancing around, she's super happy that she's just killed somebody. Bearing in mind, Krista was 20 and Colleen was 18 at the time. So she just murdered an 18-year-old woman, young woman, and she's jumping up for joy and laughing about it, saying, showing off a piece of skull. Like, in the first place, who takes a piece of skull as like a sick trophy? Like, normally people take clothes or shoes or something, piece of hair, but a skull? Are you serious? And she's there flaunting it around them. Oh, look at what I've done, look at what I've got. And the people that she's showing are obviously going to say something, and one of them did. She's not very subtle about the crime she just committed, the horrific crime she just committed. Colleen's body was actually discovered the next day by somebody that works on the campus. Obviously the police attended the scene, and it only took 36 hours before Krista was arrested, along with the other two. I mean, like I said, one of the students basically rang their mum to tell them what on earth was going on, that she's got this piece of skull and she's telling them everything she's done. And of course they called the police and it was all tied in. When they got her, she admitted to killing Colleen. You know, she didn't hide it whatsoever. And again, she wasn't that great because even if she wanted to hide the crime, she wasn't able to hide it because they found her jacket or something like that, and in the pocket of that was Colleen's skull. The jeans that she was wearing were bloody and muddy, and then they were able to get the murder weapon too. well, murder weapons. They found out that Colleen's cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. I haven't gone into all the details of what they did to her. They did it for an hour. It's horrible. If you want to go look it up, you can do. What I've told you is already horrible enough. So obviously I'm not going to go into all of the details of everything they did, but they just brutally tortured her and she was alive for most of it, and it's just super horrific. On 2nd of March in 1996, Krista went to trial, and this is where she was found guilty of the capital murder of Colleen Slemmer. She was sentenced to death, and she was actually the youngest person to be sentenced to death in that state. She was, well, I'm not entirely sure how old she was actually at the time. She was 20 when she committed the murder, which she did in 95, and then the trial was in 96. Okay, so she was 21, which was apparently the youngest woman to be convicted of death in that area. And I mean, I've seen the footage of her when the verdict was given, and she was sobbing her heart out, crying her eyes out because she was given death, and just absolutely hysterical. But I mean, she literally caused somebody else's death, so I mean, no sympathy there. But the thing that makes me laugh was that she was so hysterical, absolutely devastated at the verdict, and then the police intercepted this letter from her 3 days later, literally 3 days later, that she sent to her boyfriend, and it kind of just showed no remorse, basically. It said, "Please write me, I miss you so much. You see what I get for trying to be nice to the hoe. I went ahead and bashed her brains out so she'd die quickly instead of letting her bleed to death and suffer more, and they fucking fry me. Ain't that some shit? Please write to me and tell me what you're feeling. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify for you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life, Little Devil." Which, yeah, don't show much remorse considering she was crying her eyeballs out not long ago. So Daryl was a juvenile at the time, so he didn't get as long. He didn't get as long. He was sentenced to life in prison, but obviously didn't get the death penalty. Shadola was given 460 days in jail and 6 years probation. It was kind of not that she participated in the murder of Colleen, but the fact that she was like an accessory, that she was a lookout and she knew what was going to happen. She didn't tell anyone, she knew, so yeah, accessory to murder. Now, Krista Pike has spent her time in jail. She's appealed, she's unappealed. She said she deserved to be in there. She said that she deserves the death penalty. Then she said she doesn't deserve the death penalty. Honestly, it's just a ridiculous sort of ring around. She is still on death row right now. She has been sat on death row for, I think, 25 years. And that is what is very frustrating, because her being sat on death row for 25 years is longer than Colleen Slemmer even got to live. She's been sat there waiting for a death sentence for all that time. And in the meantime, she's strangling other prisoners in prison because she made a friend who was arguing with someone and she strangled them. She got another 25 years on top of a sentence for that. But what does that matter? Because, hey, she's got the death penalty. So who cares how much time she gets put on top of it? She also tried to escape in 2012, which is just an absolute joke. Like, they've given her capital punishment, and that is what she's down for. So carry that out. Like, seriously, just sat there waiting for it all this time. It's just frustrating. And obviously it's frustrating for Colleen's family, because I read that in 2021 they tried to put an appeal forward to ask for her date to be set because they want her to be put to death. I also did read, which really broke my heart, that they laid the daughter to rest thinking that she was a whole human being, but that piece of evidence, that piece of her skull is still in evidence, right? They didn't know that at the time. I believe they wanted to bury her as a whole. They wanted it back, and they believed at the time that they were doing that, but yeah, they found out that that was still in evidence, and it will still be in evidence until Krista Pike is put to death. So until that death sentence is carried out, that skull will remain in evidence, so they will never get that piece of the daughter back, and they will never be able to make their daughter whole until that happens. And it's just so heartbreaking as well. I also read that Krista Pike had tried to get her death sentence like scheduled, saying that she deserved it and this, that and the other. Then I've seen other footage saying that she didn't deserve the death penalty because there was four people involved and it wasn't just her. I mean, honestly, this case is really, really horrific. My heart goes out to Colleen Slemmer's family. Especially, like I said, when you search it up, when you even search up Colleen Slemmer, the first thing to come up is Krista Pike. And it's frustrating because it's always from more like her point of view and her background rather than Colleen's, and I don't know, it just bugged me. So my heart honestly goes out to her family. I really do hope that they get the wishes and that they finally get sort of Krista's death sentence carried out so that they can get that piece of skull back, because they just want it over with now. They just want the daughter to be fully put to rest and her death sentence to be carried out, because like I said, she's been sat there for 25 years on top of it. She's like 45 now. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, that is the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for some other content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Colleen Slemmer. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.